Hey, 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 hey! Welcome to the Jukebox Goes to the Movies special edition, Beatles Week, Artist of the Week. So, the Beatles on celluloid. Let's start with their first original film, A Hard Day's Night. I'm in my black and white, just for the occasion. Hard Day's Night. Everyone knows it as an album, and I'm sure everyone here also knows it as a film. It is quintessential cinema viewing. It is possibly the greatest of all the rock and roll films, as far as I'm concerned. And there's a very good reason for that. So let's dive in and explore what those reasons are now. So let's look at the deets on this movie. All right, first and foremost, directed by Richard Lester, written by Alan Owen, Liverpudlian, if I remember correctly. Got the dialect and everything, the sense of humor, the Beatle charm, all up in that movie script. It's about 87 minutes long, so for my SNL fans, it's a short-ass movie. You can fit it in anywhere. It was made on about half a million US dollar budget, and it's grossed 11 million so far. So that is a really big commercial success. Critically, it's also a success, though, because when it gets released on July 6th and 7th, 1964, it suddenly shoots up into the echelon of British films. It is number 88 on BFI's 100 Greatest British Films of the 20th Century, but it's also on Time's 100 All-Time Greatest Films list. So now, I also want to mention, it's part of the Criterion Collection. Criterion Collection saves movies that are valuable to the craft of filmmaking and preserves them, long into the future. It has rescued films. It has brought films back to life, literally resuscitated them in the public consciousness. And it also takes films that hit a modern zeitgeist, like A Hard Day's Night, and remasters them and saves them in their best possible format for future generations. Now, you might be asking yourself, what does a Beatles movie have to do with that? Why would a Beatles movie be so sought after and so important and so valuable to the cultural zeitgeist? Well, actually, I'm doing this video in conjunction with another mod, Tom, and Tom shared his thoughts with me, and honestly, I could not say them more concisely, so I'm going to quote them here in text, but I want to just read them because it is perfect. Richard Lester's comic masterpiece is anything but formulaic. The film takes as its subject not some flimsy romance, but rather the life and experiences of its subjects. The characters in the film are simply heightened versions of the Beatles themselves, and sometimes I can't remember what's a one-liner from A Hard Day's Night and what's a genuine quote from a Beatlemania interview. You can thank the scriptwriter for that. But he goes on to say here that the film's kinetic editing and handheld cinema verite style, that's equal parts journalism and French New Wave, went on to influence a generation of filmmakers. Also, the film is extremely funny, and the music absolutely rules, and John, Paul, George, and Ringo are so charming it hurts. He's absolutely right. The film spotlights every single part of that review that he's given me here. And so I'm just going to rewind a little bit to before the Beatles and explain why it's important that Richard Lester's movie is not formulaic. You see, the stock formula for a rock star in a film, a la Elvis, was take your star, write a really thin plot, usually with a lot of female nudity. Bikinis were new as well. Some singing. And Margaret was in an Elvis film. She sings beautifully, by the way. And stick them in a usually warm place, or maybe a jail. Anywhere you can have men in uniform, actually, is another one. Anyways, you would just follow a formula and insert various stereotypes and tropes into that film. To have a meta film where the subject is the film and it's fact blurring fiction blurring fact is so ahead of its time that, you know, Tom said it literally influenced so many people after. I mean, Spinal Tap doesn't exist without A Hard Day's Night. You can take that to the bank. So, in conclusion, and so everyone's clear here, A Hard Day's Night is not just a fun Beatles experience or a fun movie to watch. It is a genuinely important film in the zeitgeist of film history and in the bare bones building blocks influential films of history. 20th century had so many of them. This one was made in black and white and 64 color, had just started to seep in, so they could have taken advantage of that, but they don't. They take on convention, they flip it on its head. They take the counterculture and they make it mainstream, and they set the example and lift that bar higher than everyone else in doing it. It's unbelievable. It's meta. It's fact and fiction blurring into one another the whole time. And it has some of the most wonderful, exuberant expressions of joy I've ever seen. There's a moment in a park. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I am so glad you allowed me to take you on this journey. I'm sorry my dogs barked, but this is like my 8th take and I'm not erasing it for that. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow with help.